Hi everyone, welcome to today's show. This is a really important topic for a lot of parents, video games. You know, who has experienced a disconnection from their son or daughter from the family due to obsessive video games? We've got Steve here. He's solved this problem and he's continuing to improve the relationship his son has with video games. And we get an insight into his mind on today's show. So hi, Steve. I'm really excited again to be interviewing you and getting into your mind. And on today's show, we're focusing on a topic where you actually did a YouTube video on this, a YouTube series on video games and teens. And this episode really is an opportunity to get into your mind about how you actually handle your son and how other people can handle their children with this cultural obsession, not just in Thailand, but globally, with video games. And the first question I wanted to ask you, Steve, was, why is it important to help teens reduce video gaming, and particularly for you personally?
Thanks, first of all, Kun Melon, for your excellent translation, and also Matt. It's an honor to always, work with you. Matt's a world-class expert in NLP, master NLP, and he has some really good questions, and he always keeps me thinking. But the real issue about video games, and maybe it's not even about video games, it's about anything that becomes an obsession in a person's life. And it just happens to be video games in a lot of families' lives. And again, it's not because of the video game per se, it's because of the obsession with the video game. And the result of that is the fact that, there's a disconnection from the family. And this is my biggest concern with anything. It's doing anything in an obsessive manner that disconnects you from your family or friends.
So Steve, I mean, this series is all about modeling successful mindsets. And one way of doing that is actually, in order to get into your mindset, is for you to associate into a time where you noticed Matthew, being obsessive maybe or addictive in video games. And using your mindset of all the years you've learned in business and also in the coaching industry as well, just associate into a moment where you notice Matthew, your son, obsessing on video games, and tell me what's going on in your mind and how you respond to it, because that's going to help our listeners, get in.
So this one brings up something that I clearly remember. And the remembrance I have is that I walked into my son's room and I walked up behind him and he had his headphones on and he was actively involved in this game. And I just happened to, at the exact same time, I saw he had a chat screen going on the left-hand side of the screen. And I saw, what I considered highly emotionally disturbing chat with his friend about me, okay? And it was language that I had never heard him use before. And it was taking a knife and just stabbing it into my heart. And, I saw it, and then he saw me when I saw it, and he knew what I saw. And it was just like the absolute perfect timing when this happened. And, fortunately, I didn't get emotional. I think just my facial expression was enough, because it was a facial expression of disappointment. And, I find that a lot of times that punishment by showing disappointment to somebody is stronger than actually punishing people. And, the fact that there was just absolute disappointment in every part of my body I think he recognized that. And I think a lot of parents probably have had similar types of situations. And so, I'll let Quinn Mellon go ahead and translate this, but then we can go on to the next level. So just one last point on this is, I think what happens is is in this situation, and it could be any person or a similar situation, but what he recognized was that there was a line that was crossed that was never crossed before, and it was the uncertainty of what's going to happen, because it was such an extreme line that was crossed that there could be very grave consequences for it. And so, I had to, again, stay non-emotional the best I could and kind of walk away from it. But, it was, again, it was a line that a person crossed, which they've never even come close to crossing. And it was like, okay, there's going to be a big problem here. And that's kind of takes us to the next step.
So, Steve, what happened next?
Well, what happened next was, I think there was never a consequence for this action that we had non-emotionally discussed beforehand, because it was never expected. And so it was, the only thing that made sense was it required some type of punishment. The thing that he enjoyed the most at the time was playing video games. And I asked the question, very simply, and I'm like, okay, this is totally wrong. You totally let me down. I'm sad. I asked him, I said, how do you think I feel? He said, I think you feel sad, Dad. And, I said, so what do we do? And we agreed that it would be 1 month without video games. Now, the interesting thing is that, shortly thereafterwards, he started crying. And he was saying, Dad, what am I supposed to do now? And I was like, oh my God, this is a bigger problem than I thought, because when it became like there's absolutely nothing else to do in life now, because I don't have my games anymore, then I realized this was a problem.
So at that moment you realized that this is a problem when Matthew was crying. And so in terms of how you responded to that, a lot of people, they wouldn't know how to respond, and they might respond in a way where it would encourage more addiction and more video games. So what was the inspiration for you, Steve, in terms of how you responded to that situation, and how did you respond?
Well, fortunately, I responded pretty logically, and not emotionally. And also, like you said, what I didn't want to do was continue to reward the type of behavior that I thought was not correct. And so, at that point in time, I really started working with him. First thing we did was we found alternatives for him. Okay. And, there's alternatives in life to anything. And so we found proper alternatives. But we went through and redefined, consequences and rules. Okay. And the rules weren't like I said, you must do this, this, and this. The rules were, if this situation were to happen, what should the consequence be? And we discuss this in advance. We discuss it like, man to man. I mean, it's not like me and a kid, it's a man to man talk. And we agree to the consequences. And, to this day, that has been the way that we work together. And it really works good, because there, you're not reacting to a problem. And you can anticipate almost any problem. So we define any types of problems that could happen. And we have an agreement. And the agreement is non-emotionally based decision, which we say this is what will happen if that happens. And, since that time, I mean, it's just been improvement, and more alternatives, and less of a problem.
Thanks, Steve. Well, I mean, it seems clear that a lot of your success involves not reacting and making decisions which are not emotionally based. And you talked about consequences as well for parenting. and also I guess for business. Is there any, I mean, these are all magic steps in order to influence Matthew's behavior. Is there anything else that was important for you from your own mindset to tell Matthew, or that you needed to believe in order to have that progressive improvement from him that you've witnessed already?
Interesting question, Matt. And, you know, what comes to mind is, I've used this before, I'll say this, and that is, it's quite difficult to push a rope, okay? But you can pull a rope. And when you pull a rope, it follows you. When you push a rope, it doesn't really do much. And so it's the same thing, I think, with people. And what I try to do is I try to lead people to what the expectation is that I'm trying to get to. And so you can lead people by asking questions. You can lead people by leading by example. You can lead people by doing. And I think this is very important, is, you know, kind of leading the expectation that you really want to get to.
Thank you so much, Steve. I think we're out of time for today's show, but you know, some really amazing tips, and also, you know, insight into your mind of how you have dealt with this this issue of video games and teenagers. And for anyone that hasn't seen Steve's YouTube show on this topic, please check it out. It's fascinating, and Matthew's in the show, and you see him evolve as well. So thank you very much, Steve, for such an insight into this world and into your mind as well.
Well, thanks a lot, Matt. And it's always a pleasure having my mind probed by one of the best NLP guys. Thank you. All right, everybody, thank you so much for today. And, you know, it's been a pleasure working with such a great team with NLP coach Matt and Mastermind Melon. I'm so proud to work with people like this. And, you know, we really work hard on producing these types of videos and things, and we really appreciate you guys subscribing. Ring the bell so that, you know, next time our video comes up, you get automatically notified. Press like, share it with your friends. And also, please note down below, you know, we've got links for myself, for my website. I got a free ebook, Learn How Your Mind Works and How to Change Your Life. And then I'll just let Matt add his in real quickly, and Kun Melon.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Steve. And, you know, it was a pleasure to interview you today. In terms of, you know, if you wanted to explore your own mind with probing questions, if you have a challenge, or if you want to kind of uncover some of the strengths you have in life, then feel free to reach out to me as well. The link should be below, and you can connect with me on Facebook. Thanks, Steve.